Hello, everybody. Welcome to Wall Street Hackers, one of the most exciting and well watched television show on the Pod TV network, where we discuss stocks, investments, what you should be doing with your money, and the economy. And with that, we're going to bring in the person who has his degree from economics from UCLA, also has a law degree from the University of Miami. He also has an MBA from New York University and spent 17 years on the streets. Now, he wasn't homeless, he was working in Wall Street in the investment field. So we're going to bring in none other than the hacker himself, Peter Bennett.
It's true,
Peter,
Nick. I was not homeless, fortunately.
you're not homeless. All right, that's a good thing. Welcome to your show.
Exactly. No, thanks very much. So, welcome to the 118 edition of Wall Street Hackers. We're going to take a week off next week, and then we'll resume on Thursday or Saturday, depending on your distribution channels. And we'll be back in that week of 2-1. So we will return. The markets. Basically, first of all, we're going to do something different this week because usually we focus the whole market segment on that, but I'm going to do a different topic, but I'm going to first do a quick overview of the markets because a lot is going on as always. Number one, we just got more data. The data keeps pouring in that says that inflation is not under control. And I had written about that comment yesterday, and then today I read jobless claims tumbled to lowest level since 2022. Jobless claims dropped to lowest level in 16 months. We keep getting reports. We just got a retail report. I think it was yesterday. U.S. retail sales rose a seasonal adjusted 0.6% in December, which is much higher than expected. So the war against inflation is far from over. And that's what we've been saying for a year. Basically, we've said the Fed was behind the curve. Then we said the war against inflation is far from over. So we're going to just summarize the reasons why, which are so clear, and then get into a different topic. The market is delusional. There won't be 6 rate cuts. We're not probably going to have a soft landing, and there will be some kind of recession, and mainly because inflation isn't under control. Unemployment, 9 million plus unfilled jobs, near 50-year record low is the unemployment rate. And the big thing is energy. Energy is not going to help as much as it did before, and that's almost certain because energy prices went down in the fall, and as the spring comes, it'll probably go up. We've been saying that, and it's been starting to go up. And now we're cold, by the way. We had a very moderate winter and fall in the Northeast and parts of the country. So this is going to affect energy too. And now we're having a cold spell in the U.S. and the Northeast. So as soon as that goes up, whoops, inflation's heading back up again. So we're staying with our bottom line forecast that, well, for the market, basically, maybe up 4 to 6% this year at best, though. But the thing is, it's also a lot of downside, at least down 4 to 6, maybe more. And the risk reward ratio is not so great. On the other side, it doesn't matter as much to me because the Wall Street Hackers portfolio is a model portfolio, is designed, hopefully, and it's supposed to be designed. Our goal is to find stocks, REITs, MOPs, and bonds that will do well in any environment. So it's hard to find those, but that's what we look for. So the special topic of the week is, why is the Wall Street Hackers model portfolio extremely U.S.-centric? And it has been for some time, and that was a very good move for the last few years. But I'm staying with that. And here's some of the reasons why. There's actually at least 5 major reasons why I like U.S. stocks better than most other countries' stocks and other investments. Number one, AI and robotics. AI and robotics is likely to threaten jobs around the world. And you can hear that from sources that are very reliable, like McKinsey Consulting, Goldman Sachs. And also, when AI and robotics spread, what they're saying is it's going to replace a lot of jobs. So this is going to hit a lot of economies in terms of consumer demand, but also it will change the relative advantage of labor in markets that have cheap labor. If a country has low cost labor, but they're being replaced, then there's not as much advantage anymore. But it's going to affect the world. And as a perfect example, by the way, just this week I read that Google is laying off 30,000 coders. Now these are tech jobs because AI is going to replace the coders. So this is coming. It's certainly going to affect every country, but I think a wealthier country like the US will do better given AI changes and robotics. Number two, demographics. Well, many countries, including the US, have aging populations, which are going to also change the financial structures. Here are the 11 countries with the highest percentage of those over 65. Number one, Monaco, Japan. Number two, Portugal, Bulgaria, Croatia, Martinique, Puerto Rico, Greece, Finland, Serbia, and Germany. So out of the 11 countries that have the highest proportion of over 65s, 7 out of 11 are Europe right there, plus Japan. So this is going to be a problem for them. Demographics is going to affect the future economic situation in all countries. And by the way, China, even though it doesn't have the largest population over 65 today, it is aging faster than almost every other country, which is going to put great stress on their situation. They had the fertility programs and limited births for a long time, and now they're going to have to deal with that. Reason number three is unfunded healthcare needs for aging populations. So the U.S. has tremendously large unfunded liabilities for Medicare and healthcare that are out of control, in my opinion. I mean, it's off the books. Most people don't even talk about that. They talk about 34 trillion in debt, but the real debt is probably 125 trillion now because they don't count what they owe. But the Medicare money is spent basically, and they're going to run out of money in the next couple of years. Next decade, it'll all be gone for sure, and much sooner, very likely. So why would you say then, why invest in the U.S. with all these problems? Well, other countries actually probably will be affected worse because in the U.S., Medicare provides free hospital, which is Part A, but consumers have to pay for Part B, which is the 80% of doctors. They have to get a supplement or advantage to cover the rest. They have to get a Part D. They pay for that. So they're not getting totally free healthcare. Well, many countries, I think most countries by far in the world, are providing totally free healthcare. They haven't put the money aside either. So as their populations age, they'll even have bigger obligations. So that's number three. Number four, capitalism versus socialism and other types of dictatorial type governments. Well, the U.S. is less capitalist than it was, certainly. It's still more capitalist than many countries. And capitalism and the free market will probably allow countries to adapt to a very fast changing world better than those who are controlled by just governments or dictators. And finally, one of our favorites, energy. The world population is growing, and especially in Africa, it's huge population growth. And the developing world is going to require much more energy. Solar and wind will expand to 2040 and 2050, but it's not going to be enough to change the need for fossil fuels. The US, of course, has great untapped energy resources, both in terms of natural gas and petroleum. So basically, we're an energy-rich country, the US, and the energy-rich countries are going to do better relative to the energy-poor countries. And by the way, especially Japan, which is going to have problems because they import all of their energy. So in the end, the only last footnote I have on this topic is leadership. And that's hard to assess because we don't know who's going to be leading the US in 4 years or other countries. But leadership and smart policies are going to be critically important in this fast changing world. And there's a lot of change coming in the next 10 and 15 years and less. So quote of the week, This is a very short one. The Atlanta Federal Reserve president said inflation could, quote, seesaw if policymakers cut interest rates too soon, warning that inflation's descent towards the central bank's 2% goal was likely to slow. Exactly what Wall Street markets has been saying, and the markets have not been pricing in. So the thing is that the markets, there's more conversation now. You'll hear it now on finance shows and whatever, people saying, well, maybe we're not getting 6 rate cuts. The 6 rate cut seems too aggressive, in terms of hope. But I've been saying all along, we'll be lucky if we get 2 or 3, maybe 2, maybe political, hopefully not political. There's even a chance that there won't be any, because probably the right thing to do is to continue to fight inflation throughout the year. But we'll see, what happens there. But the market is way over optimistic, most likely. So 5 most interesting stories of the week. They're always interesting. Sometimes I have trouble picking out which is the best one, but then I try to save the best ones for the next week. Number 1, ESPN Network made up fake names for Emmy Awards in order to obtain statuettes for on-air talent who were actually ineligible to receive the awards. ESPN had operated the scheme since 2010 by submitting the names of fake individuals with the same initials as their stars under the guise of associate producers, then re-engraving the statuettes and then delivering them to their on-air personalities. ESPN said, quote, some members of our team were clearly wrong in submitting certain names that may go back to 1997 in Emmy categories where they were not eligible for recognition. I would say that's an understatement. So this is a perfect reflection of lack of ethics by the media and also lack of understanding what reality really means. It's unbelievable. That's ESPN for you. You may like their sports reporting, but I have gripes against a lot of the major media. Interesting story number 2. The Federal Monitor overseeing Big Apple jails slammed the New York City Council's controversial move to ban solitary confinement, saying it will exacerbate the already dangerous conditions behind bars. Yes, they're banning solitary confinement in New York City. The monitoring team warned that the legislation could impede the city Department of Corrections' ability to comply with 2015 court orders aimed at reducing jail violence and use of force by guards. Another reflection of totally ignoring realities. I was going to make a joke, something like, why don't we just, open up the vaults for criminals, because it is really difficult to get through those vaults, and, we can make their jobs a little easier. Interesting story number 3. Roger Goodell said, it's all about our fans. So what did the NFL do? This last Saturday night, the Dolphins-Chiefs game, which is a playoff game, was now sold and seen exclusively behind a paywall as per the demand of no one other than those who are trying to make more money, I guess, in the NFL. But this is in spite of the fact that it may not help TV sports at all. It may actually hurt the business and also may actually decrease revenues in the long run. And it will certainly alienate the watchers, the fans. So it's all about the fans, reality. Number 4, interesting story. A diversity chief at Johns Hopkins Medicine sent a monthly diversity digest email to staff with a letter that declared all white people, Christians, and men are privileged, quote, privileged. This movement is meant to separate people, and it will not end well. That's what I predict. Number 1, it will not end well politically. You're alienating so many people. Number 2, it will cause a backlash and actually maybe hurting minorities because of a potential backlash. It separates people, and it doesn't serve anybody except for maybe this chief, diversity chief, and those who profit from it. It's like a for-profit business for some people to do this, but it's just it's not right. People should be seen regardless of their skin color, obviously. And that's interesting story number 4. So interesting story number 5. A New York Post article on New York City jobs reflected where the national jobs are. New York City, first of all, does have many serious problems, so this might sound good, but boy, do they have serious problems with crime, with office space that's vacant, and budgets that are so far over, partly due to illegal immigrants who they're now supporting and having great financial stresses over. But in October, New York City surpassed pre-pandemic total job levels, which is good news for them. And so it's interesting to see where these jobs were. Number one, tech jobs in the city are booming, and 8% of the city's residents work in that sector alone. Major healthcare systems have thousands of open positions across various roles, including doctors, nurses, IT professionals, maintenance mechanics, window washers, physical therapists, psychologists, cooks, dietitians, accountants, and more. Obviously, for next decades, healthcare is a very safe place to be and a growing industry. Also, I was a little surprised by this. A global push to combat climate change has increased the green jobs considerably. Approximately 70% of green employers are now hiring or have plans to hire in the green industry. And finally, not totally surprising, the accommodation and food sector added almost 16,000 jobs in the last 12 months. So it's an interesting reflection on what's happening and where the trends are in jobs. So we'll take a quick break, and then we'll be back with our pick of the week, investment pick of the week, and panel discussion. See you soon.
One of the things that business owners forget a lot is to prepare for their own retirement.
Hi, my name's Nick Palavita, and today I'm with a very special guest, a certified financial planner, a chartered retirement plan specialist, and president of National Pension Partners, Max Culiet. Max, tell me what you do at National Pension Partners.
Well, Nick, we help successful small businesses and professionals put together retirement plans that provide them the maximum retirement benefits and big tax deductions at the same time.
Well, how do you do this?
Well, we get on an internet conferencing system with the client. We review their goals, what they want to accomplish, and then put together strategies to help them in implementing a retirement plan that benefits them, not everybody else.
Well, that sounds really good, but how much does this cost?
Well, it's really not bad because the first consultation is free. That allows us to go through and discover whether this strategy works for that business and for you as the business owner and helping you maximize your retirement.
Well, Max, how do we get this free appointment?
It's really pretty simple, Nick. You can either go to our website below or call us at 877-252-1692, and then we can set up a time with either myself, Nick, or one of our other retirement plan specialists, another CPA or advisor in the office to go over this with you and make sure it fits for you.
Hi, my name is Lewis Haupt. I work with National Pension Partners, and I work with businesses to allow them to put the maximum away that they can for themselves and to save taxes.
Hi, I'm Brad Coyle, and I'm the brokerage manager at National Pension Partners. We're always analyzing plan fund choices in order to ensure the participant's success.
If you want more information on how we can help you and your business put more money away in a retirement plan than you ever thought possible, contact us at the website below or call us at 877-252.
And we're back. So what to do, as always, it hasn't changed for a long time, but it's been pretty good. And you're going to hear one example of that now. So one, own energy stocks and especially pipelines. I love the pipeline sector. So two of our biggest allocations by far, especially is MPLX, especially in APD. And I just saw results on those two in terms of returns. So MPLX returned 41% over the last 2 years. EPD returned 31% over the last 2 years. That compares to the S&P 500 ETF, which returned 4.7%. So 41, 31, 4.7. I'll take the 31 to the 41. Those were pretty nice allocations. In terms of other allocations, we firmly believe in dividend stocks over just any stocks. Why? Because our favorite chart shows that over 50 years to 2022, dividend stocks outperformed the S&P 500 by double in over 50 years. And dividend growers and initiators actually tripled the S&P 500's funds. So basically, that's a place to be if you're going to be in anything, be in dividend stocks. And also, as always, be cautious. This is a very iffy time for the market. I don't like the risk-reward ratio. Hey, Nick, I don't like the risk-reward ratio that much right now. I think the market will be up a little bit this year, again, maybe 5%, but it's not a slam dunk that's worth the risk unless you're picking the right investments. Okay, dividend investment of the week. First disclaimers, of course, for entertainment only, no guarantees. Of course, nobody can guarantee anything except for a CD, which isn't guaranteed against inflation. These are only our opinions, and consult your financial advisor. So this week, we continue a series of small allocations to mutual funds. The fund this week is a 0.25% only allocation, again, under a quarter, and it's JEPI, which is the JP Morgan Equity Premium Income Fund. I think it's an interesting fund, but why so small an allocation? Well, one, because I'm a little nervous about the market in general right now. I'm not anxious to jump in to the broad market. I'd rather pick defensive, picks. But the other thing is, I like to pick my own investments anyway in general. But funds have a real purpose because, one, they can give you diversity, and and they're easy. It's the easiest thing in the world. You pick a fund and maybe you own 100 or many more than that stocks. And so it's a bet on the whole market. And as long as you're in the right sectors, in my opinion, which is we want to be dividend oriented or in this one case, a little different. So the JP Morgan Equity Income Fund is actually a fund that buys stocks and then sells options against the stocks. And there's a few of these funds in the market, but I like this one. It has a dividend yield of 8.7%, which is very hard to achieve for any fund in terms of cash flow. But also, I like its approach of selling options. Now, if the market goes up a lot, it probably won't get the same kind of returns. But if it goes down, it'll outperform the market if it stays flat. And so, as part of a diverse portfolio, I like that. It has a decent selection of underlying stocks. I looked at it. And for an example, if you look at the portfolio, the sales growth of those stocks over the last year was 10.9%, and the cash flow growth was 9.3%. So not bad performance for those stocks. And again, the options will generate the income. And if it crashes, it'll still make money on options. It just will be the wrong time to buy it, probably. So that's the investment of the week. And by the way, we're off next weekend, but the week of February 1st, I'm going to introduce the only fund that has energy in it that I am willing to put a small allocation into. It's an interesting fund for, again, the same reasons I was discussing on funds. So we'll be back that week. Okay, panel discussion of the week and question of the week. Why does the market miss black swans? And what are some possible significant black swans today? Background. The definition of a black swan is, quote from Google, it's not really a quote, an unpredictable event that's beyond what is normally expected of a situation as potentially severe consequences. Again, it has to be unpredictable, other than what's normally expected, and have potentially severe consequences. History is full, obviously, of financial black swans. Some examples are the dot-com bust of 2001, the 9/11 attack, and the mortgage crisis of 2008. The mortgage crisis was a perfect example because very few, even financial institutions, almost nobody in the whole marketplace expected this to happen. And I won't even go into what happened exactly, but basically people didn't think the entire real estate in the country could go down at once. They thought only regions would go down. But so this even bankrupted Bear Stearns, and AGI was, I don't know if they went through an official bankruptcy or not. I don't think so, but they really were hurt by this too. So the question, why does the market miss black swans, Nick? And also, what are some possible black swans you see today?
Well, first of all, it wouldn't be called a black swan unless you missed it. So it's kind
Well,
of a
that's
circular, it's kind of a circular definition. In other words, they have to miss it, then it becomes a black swan. And the real problem is that there's some events that are almost unforeseeable. In 2008, the real estate market took a crash, the mortgage crisis, and then we had recently real estate just took off like a rocket. And if you didn't own a home, all of a sudden you're out of the picture because it went up 200%. Then now all of a sudden we have interest rates that just jack their rates way up. And so we have a frozen real estate market. So you don't know, there's some, that's part of people have a theory of diversification because you don't know what sector is going to go up like crazy or down like crazy. You can make predictions, but no one's 100% sure.
Yeah, you're right. Diversification, and you're right about the other point. You're right. Nobody had predicted that housing would go up so much during COVID and everything, in that period of time. And now that rates would be so high, and it's very hard to predict the market. There's a theory called random walks, which they teach you in MBA school, but that somebody can Google because it's too complicated for this show. So I think you're right. By definition, it means that people miss it, but I have at least two reasons why. One, there's a theory in psychology called intermittent reinforcement, and it is the strongest reinforcement. What it means is, and they do these experiments with chickens and whatever animals. So basically, it's stronger to give a chicken feed as a reward for an action occasionally rather than always. If you give it always, it builds the behavior. But if you give it and then you don't give it, you give it and don't give it. So to me, the market's a little bit like that. It gives intermittent reinforcement. It goes up, you make some money. It goes down or flat, you don't. So it's a perfect intermittent machine in a way. Also, possibly, people just don't want to emotionally think about the negative events that could happen. I mean, it's not pleasant to think that Social Security could go bankrupt or Medicare, so it's like, well, I can't handle it. It's like, that's great, except for reality is reality. So I think there's certain psychological effects, but here are some black swans that I think are out there. So they're all, look, a lot of these people know to an extent, but they may not even be thinking about it, or they may not be prepared for it. And certainly I would say government, the media, and many in the financial markets aren't thinking about these enough, at least some of them, because some of them are going to happen. So the first one is geopolitical crisis, and everybody's concerned about that right now. And the Middle East blowing up, Iran getting a nuclear weapon. These are things that people kind of are concerned with to a point, but it's not really priced into the market. But maybe it's the probability of that. Number two, Bitcoin and crypto bust. So we've been saying for years, crypto could go to $1 million or zero, but there's no fundamental value in crypto. Not only that, if the government was smart, they would ban crypto for so many reasons and others. And by the way, Bitcoin, which says this is a perfect example. Everybody says, oh, Bitcoin's better than other cryptos because Satoshi Nakamoto promised never to issue Bitcoin again. Well, nobody knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is or whether he even exists. So, I mean, this whole thing is a fiction. It's tulips in Holland. It could go anywhere, but there's no fundamentals. And if it blows up, at least there will be some repercussions for the marketplace. I don't think it'll crush the market, but it is a potential black swan. Number three, a commercial office crisis. And I was talking about almost anybody. Over 2.5 years ago, I was talking about this on our show 2 years ago on my show where I was co-host before. I was talking about it. And only one person for over a year I ever saw on financial news talking about it. But now you hear it a lot more. So it's not really a true black swan. But who knows how damaging this is going to be? There's going to be a lot of vacant office buildings. A lot of these buildings are already priced. Their value is less than their debt already. Their values are plunging. And it could get much worse. I don't think remote workers are going to come back to the office in enough numbers to fill these vacancies. So these leases are coming due periodically, and it is especially an exposure for regional banks. They would stay away from storage REITs because you can convert office buildings to storage REITs easier than a lot of other things. It's not easy, by the way, to convert them to apartment REITs generally, depending on the structure of the building. Also, I think it's a big concern for the medical office REIT industry. So I shifted I got out of all those things. I'd done really well with storage REIT before that I'd recommended on the show, but that's not it. Then we have, so these things may be accounted for. And then we have one that everybody talks about, but nobody's really considering: Medicare and Social Security. How bad, or very few people are considering how bad this is going to be. And the problem with this one is it's going to happen. And it's going to happen year by year in the next 4 to 8 years, 10 years. It's going to happen. Medicare and Social Security, for many years, were taking in money and the government was spending the money. So that money was just flowing into the economy. Well, now Medicare and Social Security are going to deficit. So it's pulling more and more money into the system. The government has to deal with this, and they can't possibly tax enough because there's not enough money in the world to tax that much money. The deficits are probably 125 trillion. Yet on the news, you hear 34 trillion thrown around all the time. They're not counting for unfunded liabilities. So this is going to be a very significant issue for America. And I would almost call it a black swan, because if the market really was accounting for this, I'm not sure where they put their money. Actually, probably in energy, because it's, to me, one of the best hedges against inflation. And also it's a relatively safe thing, because this, because there's going to be a lot of change. So, Nick, any comments?
Well, I mean, all what you said is possible. There's a serious problem with office vacancies right now, which nationwide is like 19%. And how long can the companies hold real estate that's no one's paying leases? It's yet to be seen. But if the office workers don't come back, it could be a serious drag on the economy.
Well, they're not coming back. This is, vacancies are at, record levels, and leases are coming due. And, some workers will come back, but workers many workers prefer to work remotely. And the thing is, if you're a company and you say, I want all my workers in the office, and you're another company and you say, I'll let my workers have flexibility. Well, you're going to probably have to pay a lot more if you want to make sure your workers come in. And maybe it's worth it in some industries, but that's an expensive thing. And you're having more turnover, unhappy employees, whatever. So remote work is here to stay. And I don't think those offices are going to be filled in places like San Francisco and New York. I don't know what they're physically even going to do with these big buildings that are going to be empty, because again, it's not easy it's occasionally easy to convert. I was reading about this, a office building to a apartment, but it's not usually easy at all. It's very expensive. It doesn't have the right infrastructure, the right plumbing. You have to basically start from scratch for a lot of these buildings, more or less. It doesn't even economically pay. So what are these buildings going to be? Just sitting there empty? Banks are going to hold them. It is a potential black swan, but the one I'm most concerned with, again, is Social Security, Medicare. The government has to start at least preparing. Politicians have to say, look, we have not dealt with this for 50 years, but we have to deal with this now. Because you know what? This is what I would say. I would say the decades have turned into years, and soon the years are going to be months and days. And this is coming, and they're not doing anything. And it's politically hard to do, but they have to take some steps. They have to get together, and they have to start preparing. You don't want to be on the beach when the tsunami hits. You want to at least have a life jacket or something. You might as well prepare. No preparation. It's not the time this is not the way to do this, is once a catastrophe hits, it's too big. So sorry, audience, to leave you on bad notes. We didn't create these situations. We just report on them. So we'll be back in 2 weeks. Thanks for watching Wall Street Hackers. And as Kim always says, get healthy and get wealthy. And see you soon. Bye-bye, Nick.